John, would you like to say a couple of words? Professor John Civic from UC.
Yeah, I'm delighted. Brian asked me to open the exhibition, and I'm delighted to do that. I have to say this is the second time I've heard the Minister speak about architecture. It's very impressive and very interesting to have a Minister who takes such a close interest in architecture and sounds like a friend to architecture. And I'm delighted to follow him on the rostrum. We're in a very old house, and of course this old house is not old in terms of Dublin. But what's so beautiful about this is to be in an old house which has a feeling of new beginnings about it. I think it's a brilliant move for the irrepressible Geraldine to take on these men in the white shirts under her wing, and to help to launch them in the world. All five of these people are graduates of our School of Architecture at University College Dublin. And we have themes that we set in our school from year to year, and if I'm not mistaken, our theme last year was Strategies for an Urban Society. And we tried to remind our emerging graduates that there's more to being an architect than simply designing buildings. There's a whole lot to do before you ever do that. We're talking about, borrowed from literature, I suppose, techniques of close noticing, just to be aware of everything around you. Observation, analysis, strategy. And it's very gratifying to think that, you know, they're not out of place at Wet Week, and they're using all those techniques. What's very, very beautiful about the work that they're showing here is not only how judged the interventions are, which I'd like to speak about, but also how very closely noticed the context is, how every window is made. Every window is different and every window is made. How the outside is white and how the inside is brown. How they make us look again at things that we might have taken for granted, or things that, as I say, might have been overlooked or, let's say, undervalued. In terms of overlooked and undervalued, I was saying to Brian earlier that it's interesting that you don't have to be employed in order to be engaged. And they're certainly engaged. Some of them are even employed. Of course, I came out of college in a time of another one of these dips. If that gives you any comfort, the trouble is you're only out of one and you're into the next. But what I did with my colleagues was try to start again and claim our own city. And I think that what you're doing so brilliantly here by the metaphor of the scaffolding is scaffolding is used to prop things up for sure, but scaffolding also is a way to raise a platform. And this, I think, all your projects are platforms, of course, but I think you're making a platform for architecture itself and for yourselves as architects, a platform to stake your claim in your own city and speak up for the culture of your city, of which architecture is a foundation stone of the culture of the city. I mean, if you went to a place, take Machu Picchu in the Andes, which has no written culture at all, everyone understands, all they understand about Machu Picchu only from its architecture. So you can, even without an app, you can read a city and you can read its culture. I'm delighted to hear that you've already put a budget on it of €10,000, and I'm delighted to hear that you've already told the minister what it costs, because I'm also like to remind everybody of a day that I was in Venice in 1980 for the dragging into town of the floating theatre that Aldo Rossi made called Teatro del Mondo, which was made in scaffolding and cheap painted boarding as a vertical theatre floating into the water in Venice. I was there to see it tied up, and I was there at the first performance in it. Wouldn't I like to be able to go into your theatre in Crampton Court? Now that I know it costs €10,000, wouldn't that be a wonderful summer project in Dublin? And so practical and so stable and so transient, and the feeling of theatre. It's a wonderful prospect. I look forward to that. I'm sure we should all look forward to that, if your budget is what you say it is. All your projects, which are about sport, which are about theatre, which are about gardens, they're all aimed right into the social capital, the human capital, the people that live and are the sound and the presence of the city of Dublin. So these are not empty, frosty, formal architectural interventions. They're speaking out to us. They want us to make the streets more lively and to make the city more busy and to make the people, dare I say, happier in their city. So there's a really positive note about this. Like, since I come from where I come from, I have to say that there's also a fineness and a refinement and a kind of a judgment about this, which makes me confident in the young generation, to whom not only the future but the present belongs. I wish you luck with your new beginnings. I look forward to first performance in the theatre. I want to see these scaffold poles bolted together and unbolted, and it's my pleasure to call this exhibition open.
Thank you all speakers, and particularly the Minister and the Professor. And it's wonderful to have, I think from a personal point of view, your own practices. Buildings are the most contextual and most beautiful buildings in the city. I think how conservation should not stand in isolation. I think your buildings bring that out in a much wider ways. The buildings beside them, how they interrelate with them. I think that's something that this project brings out as well. So finally, I'd just like to thank the Minister. There's plenty of more food and wine in the room behind. And we'll just bring the Minister upstairs for a moment, but then you're more than welcome to flow up through the house yourselves and enjoy the evening.
You have to see the boardroom.
Thank you very much.
Also, sorry. Just turn them.
Thanks, Charlie. That was fantastic. I have to go, but I'd have to come back and talk to you.